my name is Rachel, and as you can tell, I lost my voice, but I just started a Patreon and I don't want to not put up any content because I need to do what I said I would do. So I am following through, even though I have the voice of Carrie Fisher in later Star Wars movies. Anyways, today we have another Authors Behaving Badly. Hopefully I have the energy to film 2 videos. It's looking rough. I've got my tea, I've got my hot tea, and we're gonna try to power through. Do not spill on the computer. Do not spill on the computer. Today's author is Emily A. Duncan, who I was going to try to do my makeup like, but I couldn't find my black eyeliner, so this is as best as I can do. In general, this is the best I can do for you today. Real quick before I start, I do want to mention once again that I have started a Patreon, and I did just add a $1 tier in case anybody is interested in that. But if you join either the Cornish Shits and Giggles or Potato Starch Marxists, you get early access to videos as well as you get to vote on content, behind the scenes stuff. Lots of fun. If you want to support my channel in that way, the link is down below, and no pressure. I appreciate all 5 of my patrons. It's so nice of you. I couldn't believe 5 people actually give a shit about this stupid channel. Oh wow, that's disgusting tea. Oh my god. So today's Authors Behaving Badly is actually by viewer request. Somebody in a recent video asked that I do Emily A. Duncan. Another person asked that I do Cassandra Clare, which, I would rather do Emily A. Duncan, so here we are. Funny story, I actually met Emily A. Duncan once in person, and she seemed like a fairly nice person. Oh wait, that's my bad. I used the wrong pronouns. They use they, them pronouns. They seem like a fairly nice person. Oh man, this video is not going to turn out as well as I would have hoped it would. When I wrote the script, it's gonna be less great than I had hoped. Similarly, probably how Emily feels about their career did not go the way that they had hoped. Author Emily A. Duncan debuted in 2019 with their debut Wicked Saints, the first in a trilogy that is rooted in Slavic influence and was compared to Leigh Bardugo's Grisha trilogy. It's also been noted extensively that the series was Kylo Ren / Rey fanfic. The book was massively hyped up before publishing, but then when it came out, reviews were not hyping it up. It had like gotten 5 stars from a few people, but most people rated it around a 3. That was sort of like the general consensus. And Jewish readers started noting that they found a lot of it to be anti-Semitic. Must be noted here is that Duncan was accused of anti-Semitism long before the events that transpired last year happened, and that went largely ignored, and that needs to stop. So as can be seen in the names and like the setting and stuff in Wicked Saints, this setting, though fictional, was inspired by Eastern Europe, primarily like Russia, Poland, and Trinavia was supposed to be like fantasy Poland, and Russia was exemplified in Kalyazi, the other fantasy country. And the issue was that Trinavia's magic was blood magic, like blood sacrifice magic, which was pointed out repeatedly relies on an anti-Semitic trope called blood libel, which says that like Jewish people use blood sacrifices in rituals, particularly like blood of children. And this Twitter user posted this lengthy thread explaining the anti-Semitic premise of the book and the magic, which included not only the use of blood libel, but also drawing inspiration from something called Rodnovery, which is Slavic neo-paganism, and basically sort of like linking the idea that Jewish people practiced blood magic linked to Rodnovery, which is associated with extreme right-wing politics in Poland, in like Slavic nationalism. It was also noted, and I have a quote here, the villainous characters in the book, the vultures, are dark-eyed, dark-haired, vermin-like creatures who are part of a secret cabal that control the government of fantasy Poland. They practice literal blood magic and are led by a man named Malachi. So this and other incidents of Emily A. Duncan's poor behavior went mostly unnoticed until, well, not unnoticed, but not talked about in like the larger population. There's always a fly in here. Every fucking time. And then Rin Chupeko, an author who probably will also get their own author behaving badly, decided to pop up one day on Twitter and talk about Emily A. Duncan, but cryptically, saying that there was a group of authors participating in anti-Asian sentiment and bullying of these people through a private channel and like making fun of certain authors' works. Rin said, "Are we ready to talk about that white author who called another Asian author ugly on an author Slack and trashed their book because they had similar themes and were supposed to release on the same week? Or will the so-called allies denounce me for criticizing their friend?" And still thinking about whether to publicly release this, knowing the people actually involved and hurt by this will be affected all over again. People kept asking who is the Asian author because we want to support their work, and Rin initially said, "I don't want to say anything without their permission." Rin Chibego also reminded people reading this tweet of other bad behavior that was done by Emily, other problematic situations that Duncan had been involved in, one of which included attempting to invalidate a incest survivor's trauma. In May 2019, Duncan and others, including another badly behaving author who will be getting her own video, Jess Cluess, harassed and intentionally triggered an incest survivor on Twitter, and people were like, "Emily, you have a young audience on Twitter." And they were like, "No, I don't," even though their book is literally targeted towards a young adult audience. It was wild. They were like, "None of the teens I work with give a shit about it, and frankly, they don't care about authors' social medias." Come on, we all know that that's not true. Jess Cluess decided to hop in there saying stupid shit as always. Has Jess Cluess ever had a good take in her life? I doubt it. Saying, "This is the stupidest thing I have seen in my years on this hell platform, and I have seen so much, so much." And Emily said, "Yeah, this one has reached just utter baffling proportions." You realize that y'all are talking about the fact that y'all triggered an incest survivor. It's funny, one of the worst things that I've ever seen on Twitter is Jess Cluess telling a black educator to sit on attack and spin, but we'll talk about that in a different video. Jess said, "And the think of the survivors gets me mad because how dare you drag actual survivors of abusive incest into this petty tempest in a teapot." Why does she always get so flowery in her stupid tweets? Like, your takes are bad. You can flower them up, but they're still bad. They were supporting a tweet that had said that they wanted to spite write a Jon Snow and Sansa Stark fanfic, which is incest. And people were like, "Wow, ew, maybe gross, don't do that." It wasn't Emily that said that they were going to write the Jon Snow Sansa, it was that they were supporting it. And a survivor of incest came forward and was like, "Hey, maybe don't," and then got dogpiled. Later, that survivor came forward to talk about this incident and said, "I'm the incest survivor in question. I gave this account permission." Oh my god, there's a fucking fly, it's gonna go in my tea. I hate Florida. "I gave this account permission to post about this situation. I was reluctant at first, but I know that the situation had hurt a lot of other incest survivors, so I felt it was wrong to silence what happened. But I need to clarify some things. What happened the first time is happening again. Instead of understanding that the point was the mockery of incest survivors for asking for trigger warnings, there's a lot of, they're evil for shipping this ship," or original poster is evil for comparing shipping to racism and anti-Semitism. "You have to understand that within context, I was years younger, in a bad place, and wasn't expecting for declarations of, 'I don't care that they're incest, they're true love,' on professional YA accounts without a thought about this being triggering. I was in no way commenting on what they can and cannot ship. It is not my place to navel gaze about that, especially since often it's survivors who are targeted the most for what type of fiction they explore. So that was not my point at all. I'm very anxious about this and think it would have been better forgotten about because it hurts to see people defending my nameless self whilst implying things that actually insult me because they are focusing on what people ship over the mockery of survivors. On the other side, it worries me that people could possibly interpret me as comparing shipping to racism and anti-Semitism. I don't think the burner account's warning ever implied that. It simply mentioned that I asked for trigger warnings, but I know others have molded the situation otherwise, which disappoints me. It feels like both interpretations, just like those of which happened when the situation first happened, ignore incest survivors to the very end, reducing us to pawns. One of the things said was, incest isn't harmful like abuse is, and I got dogpiled for criticizing this, even though I was the one saying, I don't care what people ship, but understand that the dynamic can never be healthy. Please understand what I'm actually upset about. Please understand that examples like Jessica Cluess saying that I'm not an actual survivor is what I'm hurt by, what many were hurt by. Please understand my point was the cruelty. That was it. Don't use me in shipping wars. I also want to gently suggest something. Survivors, especially, my God, Rachel, especially child sexual assault and incest survivors, are very maligned and marginalized as people. We have our own needs for political and societal change. I think we are important enough to discuss. I want to say that there have been people who have responded in genuine ways, and I'm thankful for that. I'm also glad other incest survivors feel relief at this being discussed. However, this was all too mentally taxing for me, so hopefully this is the last I have to say on it. Apologies, I have one more thing to add. Remembering that Tamsin Muir had to out herself as a survivor because people were harassing her over a fanfic she wrote as a teenager. Stuff like that is why I want to be clear what my issue actually is. It's not fictional kisses. So Rin had brought up these prior issues that had happened and then said that they would not release the name of the author that had been bullied by Emily and company without the author's permission. However, Rin also said, if anyone stated earlier, you're worried about me, thank you, but I'm far more embedded in this industry than Emily Duncan or her friends, Rory Power, Christine Lynn Herman, or Claire Wenz. When you try harassment campaigns against authors I like HF, expect my rage. And as soon as they said HF, everybody knew exactly who they were talking about. Hafsa Faisal, who wrote, I can think of the cover, We Hunt the Flame. Sorry, I'm so sick. It was blatantly obvious that that's who they were talking about. And sure enough, then author Hafsa Faisal, who has now penned several best-selling YA novels and is on the Forbes 30 Under 30 list, revealed that she was one of the bullied authors by Emily A. Duncan. I wasn't going to get involved, but my DMs are flooding with people asking if I'm the HF mentioned here, and I'm tired of keeping quiet, so yes, it's me. We're taught to keep our heads down, to downplay, to ignore and pretend nothing's happening, to weather through, because hey, everything ends at some point, and it did end. I didn't just weather through though, I powered through. But the effects don't disappear. The months leading up to my debut were some of the most anxiety-ridden, isolating months of my life because of this. I'm still living the results. I'm okay now, really I am, but that doesn't mean it never happened. I'm no stranger to harassment, to being gaslit, and reminded I don't belong almost anywhere. But over the years, I'd made a slot for myself. I'd built a sense of place and confidence and felt good about it. This almost unraveled that. It's one thing to know you're being harassed, it's another when it's in the form of subtweets and snide comments and being ignored by people you believed were allies. And you begin to wonder if it's even real or if it's all in your head. Those hurt the most. When someone you think is an ally, a few key Muslims in publishing included, looks the other way, or worse, puts a harasser on a pedestal. Anyway, I'm not around much and I'm not looking for pity, just saying that yes, it happened, but I'm okay now. I'll always be okay, and you guys and my sisters are one of the reasons why. A sock puppet account was used to defend Emily A. Duncan repeatedly, and many people believe that this was Emily coming to their own defense. This started being referred to as the Taylor Swift burner account, because it had a Taylor Swift profile pic. Many readers and authors came forward encouraging people to buy works and read works celebrating diversity written by Asian authors. This all also happened at the same time that Jay Kristoff was getting a lot of heat for anti-Asian sentiment and anti-Semitic behavior. Well, anti-Semitic behavior in the form of books. TikTok got involved and started denouncing Emily A. Duncan. Christine Lynn Herman, who was said to have been involved, wrote a apology trying to distance themselves from someone that they had referred to as a former friend, Emily. Emily then made an apology of their own. I want to issue an apology, especially to my BIPOC colleagues in publishing whom my words and actions have harmed. I have made remarks in various places that were hurtful and mean, and though through my privilege I did not see that I was using my status to hurt others, but I was. There is no excuse for it. It was racist. I am deeply sorry, and while I do not expect forgiveness, I do want to speak directly to those who I've harmed. My words and my behavior were inappropriate, and I did not see when friends were trying to call me in. It was and remains reprehensible, and I apologize for it. To those specific individuals that I have hurt, I would like to personally apologize, but only if you are willing, comfortable, and would feel safe hearing from me, and I understand if not. I also want to apologize for an instance of poor Twitter behavior where I was cavalier about a very serious topic. My callousness caused harm, and I should have both recognized and spoken on it much earlier than this. In terms of criticism that an oh my God, Rachel. An element of my book included an anti-Semitic plot. I did recognize the significance while researching and tried to handle this in a sensitive way, but I fell short. I am sorry for the harm this caused.
I will take more care when writing outside my own experience and understanding. In making amends, what damage is done cannot be undone. I will be taking an extended leave of social media because I recognize that I have a lot of work to do addressing and rectifying my behavior, including working on conducting myself in a more respectful and mindful manner toward both my peers and audience, and I want to give my full focus and attention to this.
Many were very dissatisfied, understandably, with Emily's apology, and this is because they did not include specific details, and if you are not saying specifically what you're apologizing for, then you are actively trying to avoid full accountability. They also did not apologize for allegedly using a burner account to say shitty stuff and support themselves. Also using this burner account to harass other authors and talk down to John Boyega about the Star Wars remakes, and also supporting themselves over the incest issue. Emily has not, as far as I could tell, made a return to social media. I hope that they are working on themselves. I hope that they are taking time to work on their apologies further, and I don't see their career going anywhere from here. Anyway, that's the Emily A. Duncan story, and let me know if you remember this happening. I remember it going down on Twitter, and whoo, what a mess. It's the part that they said that they recognized that they were writing an anti-Semitic plot and then still went forward with it that really gets me here. That's the part that I'm like, you knew and you just did it anyway? Hello? Wow, what a time. What a time. Anyway, thanks for watching. Leave your comments and questions down below. And again, if you want to support me, you can join Patreon, you can tip me on coffee, follow me on all socials, and the best way to support is to like and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time. Bye. Pray for me also. I am so congested. Satan, help.